John here. Welcome back to Raider's Garage. I'm going to be doing a 3-part video series on making fire with a bow drill. This first part is going to be geared for beginners or people who've never actually tried to make fire with a bow drill and might not have the ability to get out in the woods and find the materials they need. And everybody has a learning curve. It's always best to use that learning curve to practice something and get yourself up to speed before trepsing off in the wilds and actually trying to do it from scratch. So there's going to be a few power tools involved. Anyway, what I'll start out with is the bows. Many people have a misconception that you've got to find a perfect piece of wood, nice shaped bow, and they might not realize that you don't want something that's flexible like you're going to shoot an arrow out of it. You actually want it stiff. You want it hard enough so that when you actually have the string on it, it doesn't flex, which will cause the string to slip on the spindle. This is my own personal bow drill that I made years ago for doing demonstrations with. So it looked kind of neat, but it doesn't have to. Your bow doesn't have to be shaped like a bow. It can be shaped like a gun. All that you need is some way to get the string away from the back spine of the bow so it can travel. When you're running it on the spindle, it stays off the bow. Doesn't have to be perfect. It could be a gnarled up old piece of wood like this. All that's important is that you can get a string on it. You want it probably at least about 20 inches long. It'll make it easier to get long, smooth strokes with. If you make it shorter, then you end up going really fast like that and makes it a little bit harder. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. By realizing that, you won't wander off looking for the perfect bow and kill hours of time trying to find that one piece of wood that'll be perfect when you walk by 20 chunks of wood that look like this. The next thing you're going to need is a handhold. A handhold like this is a piece of limestone. I've taken and carved a little divot in it so it will actually hold on top of the spindle, but you don't need to find that. You can take any piece of wood, especially if you want some hardwood, and make a handle out of it. This is what the divot would look like in the piece of stone. You don't have to put a divot. If you can find a piece of stone that actually has a divot in it already, you're all that much better off. You can take a piece of wood, just cut off a piece of wood. It doesn't have to be sawed off nice and smooth, just any piece of wood will do. You put a divot in it, which you use with your knife. I'll show you how to do that here shortly. Actually, I can show you right now. But all you would do is start the knife, put it in there, and twist it. You don't want your fingers behind it, and you want it sitting on a nice hard surface so that you can't be injured. But you just spin your knife in it like this until you have a good divot in the wood. And it could be round, just flat, whatever's comfortable, whatever fits your hand. But you're going to have it in your hand to push down on the spindle. Now, for your fireboard, this is, like I said, this is geared more for someone who wants to learn. Maybe you live in the inner city or something and you don't have access to the woods. You can go to your local lumber yard. I bought this. This was a 12-foot piece of cedar board, or 10-foot piece of cedar board. It was only $3.40 at our local lumber yard. Cedar is a really easy wood to make bow drill fire with, so it helps with the learning curve. What I've done is I've taken that cedar board and cut it off into about 8 to 10 inch pieces. One of these will end up being a fireboard just like this. It's what you'll actually be using for the base for your spindle. And I've taken another one and I've split it down so it was relatively round. Then what you want to do, if you have access to a belt sander or a grinder, you can always run this on it and make it nice and round. If you don't have access, you have to use a knife. I actually think it's a good idea to use a knife to actually practice with like this. That way when you actually do get in the wilds and need to make the spindle, you'll have the knife skills to actually do it without struggling too hard. Kind of important when you're trying to whittle something like this, a lot of times you want to do a push cut like this with the knife perpendicular to the stick. Well, you can do that. Sometimes though you'll dig in too far and it'll dig in and you end up cutting too much wood out, have to start over. Way to prevent that is when you're actually doing your whittling, turn the knife up like this so that you have better control of it as you're cutting. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. Start at the bottom. Instead of starting up here and trying to peel this whole thing off, start towards the bottom and take that corner off and then whittle towards the part that you're actually doing in small pieces. If you try to take too much at once, you can actually take too much and have to start over, and this just prevents you from doing that. Now I'm not going to sit here and whittle this whole thing because that would be kind of boring, so I'm going to go ahead and whittle this, do some editing, and get it ready. Now, once you've got your spindle round, you want to file or whittle a point on one end. I don't know if the camera can see it from that close or not. You want a relatively long point on one end and a blunt point on the other. This part is going to... Stupid squirrel. This part is going to go in the hand drill, and this part is going to go on the fireboard. It's kind of important you want these points to be lined up pretty straight. The easiest way to do that is to take your spindle and lay it on a board and roll it. If it doesn't wiggle up and down, you've got it pretty straight. That's just a little tip, not all that important, but just something I thought I'd show you. Okay, going back to the bow now. Now, what I've done here is, this already has a kind of a place for the string to be held at one end. Got kind of lucky there. At the other end where the hand is going to be, I always just take a saw and cut a notch in it and make that notch go all the way through so that the string can have a place to rest on it. That's just the technique I use. I'm sure there's different ways to tie them on and stuff, but there's a reason that I do it this way, and I'll explain that here shortly. Alright, now got that notch at the top for the string loop to go on, or if it has the V or whatever you gotta do, you can just tie the string to it so the one end is held firm. Now this is how I do it. I take the drill and put it inside the string and just loop it around once until the string's on there. Then I pull it up till the string's tight and lay it in that notch, and then hold it with my fingers. Now that's going to be way too loose to use, so all I do is I tighten the string up a little bit by pulling on it, wrap it around, and then just wrap it around the handhold. Makes it really fast and easy to adjust it if you need to. Now, try to get the stick back in. See, it's a little bit too loose. So, now it's as simple as unwrapping it and just tightening the string up a little bit. Rewrap it. Very fast, very simple, very easy. Now once you get the tension right on that, it will hold the bow drill. You notice how these two strings are one over top of the other one. You don't want them crossed like that or anything, otherwise it won't work. So it's just the easiest way to load the drill is to bring it up from the bottom, put it in, and just roll that over just like that. Now that's too loose. If you can pull it like this, it's way too loose, but now that you know how to adjust the tension, you can. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to make your fireboard. To start off with, you want it about the same thickness as your spindle, just be a little easier that way. you need to know where you're going to put this at. Therefore, when you put it on here, you don't want your spindle too close to the edge, because when you make your notch, it'll ride out that notch. So you want to make sure it's in just far enough that you've got some wood on the outside of the spindle. When you look down, you can actually see some wood past it, but you don't want it right in the center. Then you just have to do a lot more work to make your notch. So just as long as you've got some wood out there, you mark it. Then you take your knife, and put the tip of it in there, push down, keep your hands back, just spin the knife. You want to make a pretty good divot, something that it's not going to skip out of. Just like that. And that's the exact same way you would make the handhold for the top out of the wood. So that you do the same thing for the top. And there you have it so far. That's how you make the apparatus. We haven't tried to make fire with it yet because you still have to do a little bit more to the fireboard, but to do what you need to do to the fireboard, you need to know how to actually operate the bow drill. And so we're going to head on into video number 2. Thanks for watching.